Old Swanner here. In this video we'll be looking at the basic spider pattern, or spider exercise as it's often referred to. In the spider exercise we use left hand pattern in the hope of creating new finger independence, the ability to move each finger separately from the rest of the fingers in the hand. The standard approach is to take chromatic patterns one fret at a time. We'll take fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, first up the E string, then the A string, and so on. Come back down. Then maybe move up a fret. You get the idea. Now, one problem with this is, in my opinion, it's a bit of a hidden hope sort of thing. The recommendation is you spend 10 minutes or more, if you're really into it, of your practice sessions every day, and after some time you will have extra finger independence. Does it work is the big question. I would say yes to a point. Like anything on guitar, when it's new, it will exercise new parts of your brain. It will make your muscles work slightly differently. There's always benefit in that. The question comes, what happens when you've repeated it to the point you're familiar with and you're not quite sure if it's doing you any good? That's what we'll be looking to address in this video. So my approach to this, the same as I would approach probably anything on a guitar, we'd chop it into bits. We'll take some bite-sized pieces rather than looking at the hugely complex structure that you've got with the pattern I originally demonstrated. Let's chop it down to 2 strings. So it's small, it's easy to learn. We can measure it. I'll put a backing on at 60 beats per minute. Okay, so I can do that. Push the speed up. And you would measure the top speed that you can execute that cleanly at. And you'll write it down with the date on. Let's take the same pattern now, but on the other side of the fretboard. 2 adjacent strings still, but this time strings 1 and 2. You could do likewise with that. Measure it, jot down the date. And what you'll likely find is that one of those 2 patterns is tougher than the other. Now that's where your work needs to go in. My guess is, let's say that the one on the top 2 strings was tougher. By the time you've worked this and got a decent amount of improvement off this pattern, you'll likely find that the other one's improved as well. There's obviously crossover between the 2. For me, it feels easier on the bottom strings than the top, but that might not be the same for everybody else. Anyway, jot down your top speed, whether you keep coming back to it on a regular basis or just file it and forget it. Either way, you've now got some rock solid information to work against to find out whether you're getting better at that sort of thing. And guaranteed, if you've improved these building blocks, then the speed that the whole would function at has to have improved as well. Maybe with a little bit of practice to tie all the pieces together. And with these measurements filed, I mean, I can guarantee that you will thank yourself in 10 years for having taken the time to do this. It's rock solid information. And with this sort of information, even if you find out you're not improving, you're still moving forward, because that's taught you that what you tried didn't work. And that's going to push you in the direction of finding something that does work a lot quicker. And it will save you, guaranteed, sitting there forever thinking you're getting better, hoping you're getting better, when really all you're doing is wasting time repeating patterns with no benefit. The next thing we could do is try the same sort of ideas but in different arrangements. Instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, we could go 4, 3, 2, 1. But once again, taking the bite-sized version, 2 strings instead of thinking of the whole thing right the way across 6 strings. Much easier to stare in at the problem, and there's probably for you massive benefit as well in just looking at the single string version, just round and round. How do my fingers move? What can I do to stop them being pulled out of position? How slow do I have to go that I know that everything's functioning as perfectly as it would if I'd made a machine to do it? the slower you go, the more you're able to control things. So the better articles on this on the internet would certainly recommend slowing down, getting rid of any sort of musicality to it at all, and just looking at the mechanics of the fingers. What happens when I lift off finger 4? What else wants to move? And so on. It's really tough to get it perfect, but if you move in the direction of perfection, eventually you end up an awful lot better than you once were. Another pattern we could do, just picking random ones, instead of we've done 1 2 3 4, we've done 4 3 2 1. How about 1 2 4 3? And each of these will just make your brain function ever so slightly differently. You may come across some physical problems in there. You may just find mental problems. If it's mental, then it's much easier to deal with than the physical stuff, which can stay with you for a lifetime. This looks like it's going to end up being quite an extensive series of videos and companion blog articles on the subject of finger independence. You can find the blog articles on my website, oldswanner.guitartuition.com. You can also download the tabs for the examples I'm running through here, and any future tabs as well. In fact, any article on the blog, I'm putting the tabs in a downloadable PDF. Coming up in the forthcoming installments, we will have some of the various patterns that I've used to test finger independence, and we'll also be looking at some of the techniques I've used in the hope of increasing finger independence. When it works, remember, you measure and you can see an increase in your speed. Absolutely key to the whole process. So I hope you join me for this journey. I may learn a little myself, having to go through it with you in the depth that we're looking to do here. I've noticed while recording some of these videos for this particular presentation, my flyaway fourth finger, which has been a bugbear of mine for many, many years. Perhaps I'll set a little of this series aside to looking at how I can improve. And you can see it ends up quite a long way from the fretboard. Something I've been aware for years, doing it down here really exacerbates the problem and makes it stand out, especially when watching it back on video. So I can also recommend that you video yourself and watch your hands back from the other side. You may see some things that you didn't spot looking down at your fingers. I wish you the best of luck.